Hello, Commanders, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous Journey Across the Galaxy. We are continuing on our way out to Beagle Point. Let's go ahead, get up into space, and then we'll talk about today's topic, which is going to be working in adverse conditions. But before we can get into any of that, I would like to... what's going on here? I would like to welcome any new faces who might be here and get you guys up to speed on what it is that we're doing. We are currently on our way to Beagle Point, as I said in the beginning, but the primary goal of this journey isn't necessarily to visit Beagle Point. It is to increase our exobiology skill up to the point where we can have the elite status, as high up in the elite status as we can once we get out there. And then the secondary goal is taking all that money that we're going to be making and turning that into a fleet carrier that we can then take out into deep space with all of our ships and everything and just kind of do permanent out in the black exploration stuff. So that's kind of the point of what we're doing. I think that today's episode is going to be another in what will likely be a continuing series of kind of changing gears and ignoring exobiology for a little bit in favor of trying to get in a little bit of distance. So I don't think we're going to bother stopping and scanning and doing some of the things that we typically try to do. When we do these episodes, we typically hop into a system, check and see if there are any high-value planets to scan, such as Earth-like worlds, ammonia worlds, and water worlds. And then if there are, we'll go and do a planetary scan of those. And then, depending on how many bodies are in the system, we'll do a full-on, full-spectrum system scan and try to see if there are any biological signatures. But that's different episodes. Today, I think we're just gonna get some distance down because, I'd really like to start expediting our destination, expediting getting to our destination anyway. So we're just going to do some fuel scooping. We'll pop the Discovery scanner as we go, but I'm not going to bother worrying about seeing if there are any high-value planets or anything like that because we have so much money in scans in our ship right now that I don't know. I think we're getting. I don't know how close we are. We'll find out once we get there, and we'll still have the whole trip back if we haven't made enough money. We can do a bunch of scanning on the way back, and obviously, we still have hundreds of jumps to go. I think our current waypoint is 100 and something, 150-ish jumps away. I think. I don't know. We'll check when we hop out of here to see how many jumps we have until our next waypoint. We'll bring up the galaxy map too, so that you guys can see kind of the direction that we're going. Then after that, we'll get into our topic of discussion for today, which, at least to me, is relatively interesting. So let's check out our galaxy map here. We are currently right here. We started way back over here in the bubble where Earth and all of our human civilization is, passed through the center of the galaxy where Sagittarius A star, the supermassive black hole, is, and continued all the way to here. Our current waypoint is right here, and as you can see, it's 143 jumps away from where we are right now. And then Beagle Point is over here somewhere, so we still have several more, a lot more jumps to get done before we're going to be ready to get to Beagle Point. But anyways, the topic of discussion for today is working in adverse conditions, and I say that because I just got finished working in adverse conditions. If you've been following the channel, you know. Hold on. If you've been following the channel, you know that I recently moved back into my travel trailer. That was an active choice. It wasn't a forced thing, something that we're forced to do. I like living in my travel trailer, and I am currently volunteering for the County Park Service in exchange for a space, which is a pretty sweet deal. Only 20 hours a week, and they will provide you with a place to park your RV and full hookups. So, here in San Diego County, where I am, that's actually a pretty decent deal. So typically, the work is pretty easy and light, and it's not a lot that has to be done. But we've been getting a lot of rain lately. And the temperature here, okay, I thought I pressed the button already. The temperature here, while not, frigid by any means, it's cold enough that being out in the rain at the temperature that it is, especially if you don't have really good cold and wet weather gear, very uncomfortable and not very fun. So, and the big problem is that the vehicles that they have here, they have a couple of Polaris 8 ATVs and a couple of Gator ATVs. And they are open to the elements. So you're driving around in 50 some odd degree weather sorry, I'm trying to get my discovery scanner going here. You're driving around in 50 some odd degree weather, and you know, it almost never rains out here, so none of us have really good, you know, wet weather gear. And you know, it's cold and it's wet, and you're out there driving around in an open air vehicle. It's not exactly the most fun thing to do in the world, and I have to say, the first 3 hours that I was out there, because we do 5-hour shifts, 5-hour shifts, 4 days a week. And the first few hours I was out there, it was raining the entire time and it was cold, and I'm driving around in this vehicle, and I'm just like, ooh, it's cold. My fingers were starting to get really numb. I couldn't even feel the tip of one of my fingers. It was, you know, like, obviously I wasn't in any danger, really, because, you know, it doesn't get that cold here. You know, it was in the high 50s, but even that is, you son of... That really irritates me. I cannot stand it when it does that. Cannot stand it when it does that. I apologize for my irritation. I'm really annoyed I'm really annoyed, because now we're going to have to take a bunch of heat damage getting out of this. Okay, the Elite Dangerous developers need to prioritize fixing that bug and making it so that the borderline on a planet is not something that loads last. That needs to be the first thing that loads in the load order of graphical things that show up, so that we don't have accidents like that. It's unreasonable that I can't maneuver around a star because I'm waiting on a stupid line to show up. That is extremely irritating. I don't want to boost because that's going to blast my temperature up.
Engage. Temperature critical. Warning. Taking heat damage. Fuel scoop.
Yeah, of course we are, because
Fuel scoop disengaged.
that is extremely irritating. That is not something I should have to deal with. The line should show up. That should be the first thing that loads. Even before the star loads, that line should be there. Anyways, what was I talking about? I was completely thrown off by that. We've done so well avoiding damaging things so far, and then a graphical issue just ugh. Anyways, I know the temperature is in the high 50s, so it's not like life-threatening or, you know, I'm gonna cause bodily harm. It's just extremely uncomfortable. See, this is how it should be every time. I should always have the line as soon as I'm here. Anyways, so, you know, a few hours into my shift, and it's really cold after a while. I mean, obviously, you know, you can deal with it for a little while, but if you're out in cold and wet and all that stuff, and you don't have the proper gear to deal with it, you know, it wears on you after a while. But fortunately, towards the third hour of my shift, they decided that they wanted to put the doors on one of the Polaris, because they have doors and a back windshield and stuff like that for it. That would have been nice to have at the beginning of the shift, but I guess they just waited too long to put the doors back on. It was a decision that they had made already, and they were going to do it. They just hadn't gotten around to it yet. So I spent the last couple of hours of my shift helping somebody put the doors back on the Polaris that I was already driving, and it took a couple of hours because the mounting hardware and everything for it was just, the doors were bent out of shape, and the bracket, the hinges were all bent out of shape, and we just had to do a bunch of you know, bending things into place so that the doors would close with relative ease, so that, you know, some of the people who had, like, some of us could, you know, muscle it if we had to, but you don't want to spend your whole day having to open and, like, force a door open, force it closed, and do all that stuff. It's just that's way too much. That's way too much for the average person to have to do. And then we have some older people here who volunteer, and they might not be capable of opening and closing the door that way. So we just wanted to make sure that it was easy to open, easy to close, and you know, protected us from the elements. That's kind of the whole point of all of that. But you know, just that's the kind of story of my day today. But the topic I wanted to cover is just, you know, trying to work in adverse conditions can be extremely frustrating and demoralizing, and you know, it's just one of those things where what is typically super easy and relatively I don't want to call the work that I'm doing fun. It's not fun, but it's reasonably enjoyable. You feel like you're getting something done, and you know, you're being active with your body, and you're out there, you know, doing something semi-meaningful, and it feels better than just sitting around, you know, twiddling your thumbs in an office. I definitely enjoy doing this more than I have been doing some of my other jobs that I've had in the past, and you know, I'm out there. There's a visual difference between what things looked like before you got there versus when you leave it. So that's pretty satisfying. And then obviously it's minimal exercise, but it's still a little bit of exercise. Getting into and out of the car, walking around, picking things up, occasionally shoveling things out of fire pits, and doing a little bit of raking to make the place look a little bit better. And obviously that's good for your body, and it's good for your spirit and all of that stuff. So, you know, it's not fun, but it's definitely one of the more satisfying jobs that I've ever had, even though I'm not technically getting paid for it. I'm still, you know, I'm getting something out of it. But it's kind of interesting how a little bit of rain and a little bit of cold turns something that's relatively enjoyable into something that's completely miserable. And you know, it doesn't take a lot to do that. Even the last few, even yesterday when I was working, the temperature was still in the, you know, high 50s, low 60s, but the sun was out, and even though it was a little bit cold, you could deal with it because, you know, it was a relatively nice day outside. The temperature today is pretty comparable to the temperature as it was yesterday, but you add some rain into it without, you know, being able to stay completely dry, and having, you know, maybe some gloves for your hands to keep the water off and the cold out and all that stuff. Rapidly changes something that's relatively pleasant into something that's just completely miserable. So it's kind of weird how, I don't say it's kind of weird, it's kind of amazing how even slightly adverse conditions can take something that's normally, you know, no big deal and turn it into, man, I can't wait until I'm freaking done with this. I don't want to be doing this anymore. I'm cold and I'm wet and I'm shivering, and there's no relief because I can't get into a vehicle and turn the heater on or anything like that, and I'm driving around and the wind is blasting me, and my clothes are soaked, and I'm you know, you're complaining, and you know, it's hard to get out of the mentality of being like, I don't want to be doing this anymore. I'm ready to be done. Can I go home, please? Which is, you know, the other side of that is, obviously I served as a Marine for 11 years, and there was a time in my life where I could have easily sucked that up and just been like, nah, you gotta do what you gotta do. Now that I've been out for over a decade, and I've gotten kind of used to chilling in my computer chair and offices and stuff like that, and then I go outside and conditions are like that, and I'm like, ugh, I don't like this. This sucks. I don't want to be here. That's kind of the way it works. You know, different people handle adversity in different ways, and they handle different kinds of adversity differently in different ways as compared to other people. Obviously, there's lots of people in the world who have adversity that they have no choice, or they live in adverse conditions that they can't get out of. Obviously, if you're living in poverty, then when the rain comes, then you're stuck with that. You don't really have too many options, especially if you live in a part of the world where they don't have a lot of help for underprivileged people. Well, whatever word you choose to use for that, you know, there's a lot of people in the world who are forced to live in adverse conditions, and they just have to make it work. So I think I was talking yesterday or the day before, whenever the last video I posted, I was talking about gratitude, and it's like, well, I definitely have a lot of gratitude that I don't have to spend my life having to endure the elements, because that would suck. That would suck hard, and I would hate to be in that situation. And I'm really glad that I don't have to be. I'm really glad that I'm in a place where, you know, I can look I was talking about, you know, we want to climb, everybody wants to climb up the ladder. And I'm really glad that I'm in a place where, you know, my view of the ladder is somewhat better than what a lot of people in the world, where their view is. You know, it's good to be self-aware enough to know that you have it pretty good. You know, your position in the world is a lot better than most people, and then still have that, you know, the reasonable outlook of saying, yeah, it's great where I am, but at the same time, I still would like to move forward and find a better place for me, you know, because that's what we all want. We all want to find a better place. All right, let me try to get around this star. So, you know, I try not to turn some of these topics that I have into, you know, wine sessions. You know, I try to focus more on just concepts rather than just, you know, complaining about the ridiculousness that I felt like I had to put up with today. It was definitely cold. It was definitely miserable. I was definitely feeling sorry for myself, you know, after a couple of hours of being out in it. And, you know, a lot of it is just... if you don't have the right gear to deal with it, even a little bit of cold and wet can really just, you know, mess with your body a lot. Especially as you start getting older. I mean, I'm not old, but I'm definitely in the second half of my life at this point. And, you know, my body can't handle adverse conditions as well as it used to be able to, especially because I don't, you know, I'm very much sedentary unless I absolutely have to be. I like to just sit around doing nothing. So my body just isn't as fit and in shape as it used to be. So, you know, put me in adverse conditions without the gear that I need to stay warm and dry and all of that stuff. And I very quickly get to the point where I'm just like, I don't want to be in this anymore. Can I go back to my trailer and get warm again, please? I don't think that's an unreasonable situation for most people. Obviously, if you're living in a situation where you don't have that choice, you are rubbing your fingers together in the smallest violin, saying, playing what is it, Cry Me a River, whatever the saying is. You know what I'm talking about. You know, your level of sympathy for somebody going through struggle is going to depend very much on where you are in your life and the things that you're going through. If you're going through much harder things, then you're not going to have much sympathy for somebody who had to go drive around in a cart out in the rain and got his little pants and stuff wet. You're not going to care about that. But for me, you know, it was frustrating and slightly demoralizing, and I was really glad when they said I was going to go with this guy to help put these doors and stuff back on the vehicle, because we got to get out of the rain and go to a garage and, you know, spend some time not only just being out of the rain and being in a more conducive environment to getting things done, but then also I was able to help set up the vehicle so that the next time I or somebody else has to go working out in the cold and the rain and the wind and all of that stuff, it's going to be a much more pleasant experience, because now the vehicle has doors and it's fully enclosed, so that when the rain is there, the only time we have to deal with it is when we have to get out of the vehicle to do a site. And to be perfectly honest with you, that is going to make a massive difference, because I think most of the wet that I experienced was the fact that we were driving around in an open vehicle, and obviously when you're driving around, the water that's falling starts moving in a certain direction in relation to your vehicle. So, you know, a lot of it was just when you're standing out on the thing. I have a big wide hat that helps keep the water off of me, and if the water's falling mostly straight down, well, then most of my body isn't really getting hit. It's when I'm sitting in that vehicle with with no door, and the rain is coming in at a slight angle, and we're driving into the wind, and maybe it's coming from the side, I'm getting completely soaked because we're moving and all of that stuff. So enclosing the vehicle should make a massive difference when it comes to keeping dry, because now, even though I'm going to be standing out I'm still going to have to get out of the vehicle to go clean up a side or do whatever it is that I'm doing. We're not going to be moving quickly through rain in a way that's going to make it so that a lot of water is able to get to me. So that's number one. Then number two, obviously if you're driving around at, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour, while, compared to a car, that's not very much. In an open air vehicle, when you're already cold and wet and, pretty miserable, you add that wind chill factor onto that wet skin, especially your hands, and it really starts to become very uncomfortable. I had to drive around with one hand in my pocket, in my jacket pocket, because my hands were they were so cold. They were so cold. My fingers are still stiff right now from being out in the cold like that. So, it's a massive quality of life improvement. I'm really glad that they decided to go ahead and do that. And, I'm not looking forward. I think one of my next days off sometime late next week, it's going to be raining again. I'm not looking forward to, working a shift in the rain, but I'm definitely much less apprehensive about it now that I have a vehicle available that will allow me to drive around and not have to be, getting completely wet and ridiculous. I don't remember how many bodies were in this system. We do need to start looking for a place to set down, though. So I think in the next system, let's take a look. We'll see if we can find something. We'll see if we can find a planet to land on. And we can go ahead and call that a day, because I know it's only 20 minutes in, but I have an imminent event about to happen, and I need to get off. So, there's that. Alright, let's see how many bodies are in this system. I don't even know how many jumps we got in today. We're down to 123, so I think we got a good 20 jumps in. Something like that. Okay, so... are there any landable... yeah, right here. And only 20 light seconds away. That's what I'm talking about. So let's get ourselves pointed in that direction. Get our Super Cruise assist turned off. Hold on, how do I... Super Cruise assist turned on. Get ourselves to the body. We'll get down to the planet. And then we'll call it a day. Yeah, that's kind of weird because of the way the orbits are on that. It made it look like there was another star over here, and I was like, that doesn't make any sense. That's okay. It's very weird that these are so close together. I think we should try to land on the inner side so that we can see the moon from the surface over here, because that's going to look kind of interesting. Get the throttle turned down a little bit. Yeah, we'll just go straight in, and then normally I would try to land on the Terminator if we weren't trying to do any biology and we were just coming in for a landing like this. But I think today, since I want to stay where we can see that moon for the log off, we're just going to come straight down and then come up at an angle.
Orbital flight engaged.
There we go. I have a bad feeling. I knew it was going to do that to me. Just got to bleed off some speed before we dip back down into here. Because unfortunately, they didn't provide they didn't make it so that the speed will bleed off as quickly as it would be nice if it did. Realistically, as long as you're not at full throttle, it should just allow you to just pop into the glide there, but whatever. The glide could be a very nice slowdown thing. But anyways, we're going to go ahead and get down here on the ground. Let's get our landing gear out. And we're going to land straight in this little spot over here, so that hopefully we can hop out, look up, and see a nice big other moon sitting over there. Oh, some serious rocks over here. All right. All right. Well, hopefully you guys had lots of fun. Be sure to click that like button if you did so that the YouTube algorithm will know and send the video out to as many people as possible. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so now so that when... Oh, why am I doing that? So that when the next video comes out, it will show up in your feed and you will be able to watch it as soon as it becomes available. Channel members do get early access to all of my content, so be sure to click that join button, check out the list of options available there, and decide if any of those are right for you. If you're not interested in a long-term commitment, you can leave YouTube's version of a tip with that thanks button. It is a single-time payment if you found the episode worthy of contribution. Direct contributions are greatly appreciated and a critical component to helping to turn this into a full-time gig, which is the dream. So again, thank you very much for your time. Hope you guys have been enjoying the journey, and especially this cool sign-off with the moon feeling like it's just out of reach. Be sure to come back for the next one, and I'll see you then.